So, first, the shiur is sponsored. This entire year is sponsored really לעילוי נשמת מלן סילביה, דיוויד זיכרונם לברכה, מנחם מנדל בן אברהם מאיר וטויבה רבקה, וציוויה חיה בת אריה לייב וחווה עידל זיכרונם לברכה, שיהיה לעילוי נשמה. Okay, so we are on page 4, and we continue on with the first machloket. You remember the first machloket with the smicha and Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, and some kind of even an aggressive dispute where the students of Shammai are trying to enforce their opinion on Hillel. Hillel had to even create some kind of a deception in order not to be beaten up by the students. And we asked the question of what's the problem with smicha, with the leaning of the hands on the animal. And we spoke that the only thing that we can come up with is shvut, which means, we talked about it a bit, it's a subcategory of what? Of like a muktzeh, okay? Meaning things that you try to do in order to avoid violating Shabbat later on. However, in the Mikdash, we know ein shvut b'Mikdash. That's why, for example, they have a tkiyat shofar in the Bet HaMikdash. There's no shvut b'Mikdash, and a few other things. And it obviously raised the question of why not to do smicha in the Mikdash according to Shammai. So, we are on page 4, and now take a look at the Sifra. The Sifra is a Midrash Tanaim. So we're talking about the first 0 to 2nd century in Eretz Israel. So it says the following, page 4, top of page 4. בית שמאי אומר, יחוג אדם ביום טוב. What does it mean, יחוג אדם? No, before yachol, but what? Okay. So should okay, but what is lahug? So you will say celebrate, but really it's korban chagiga. That's why we call a celebration. We call chagiga. Chagiga is based on the korban. Korban, so you will chagiga. Okay, but it's korban chagiga, not chagiga. It's korban chagiga, and it's from the word chag, midshon chug. What is a chug? A circle or group of people. That's what it is. Okay, what we can say bechug hamishpacha, in the circle of family and friends. Okay, so that's what you do with chagiga. So the Gemara, so the Sifra asked. There is הקרוב אליך הדבר מאוד.
Oh, I would have run up.
It's okay, it's right here. So the Sifra says what? Can a person bring a korban chagiga biyom tov? Talmud lomar, ach. What is ach? Every time you see in the Torah ach, it comes to, very good, it comes to למעט. What does it mean למעט? To minimize, to exclude. תלמוד לומר אך, במועד אתה חוגג, ואי אתה חוגג ביום טוב. בית הלל אומרים, יכול יחוג אדם בשבת, to bring קורבן חגיגה בשבת, תלמוד לומר אך, ביום טוב אתה חוגג, ואין אתה חוגג בשבת. So בית שמאי says, bring your קורבן חגיגה when? During חול המועד. Moed does not mean necessarily Yom Tov. It means what? Chol HaMoed. How do we know that? Give me a proof. That Moed is Chol HaMoed and not necessarily the Yom Tov itself.
Because it says, that's how we celebrate.
Okay, Yom Tov and Moed, but mamash, a clear in the Mishnah, the language of the Mishnah. Rab Lazar says, כל המחלל את המועדות, כאילו חילל Shabbat, right? What is מחלל את המועדות? So obviously it doesn't come to say that you're not allowed to violate the Moed, the Yom Tov. That's like Shabbat. It talks about what? Chol HaMoed. And there are other proofs as well in the Safrut Chazal that they will call Moed. This is, by the way, the intrinsic tension regarding what? Regarding Tefillin, Chol HaMoed. I don't want to start talking about that because that's another issue that I can spend a few weeks about it. But really, according to Ashkenazim, you put tefillin on Chol HaMoed. That was the ancient minhag. Before Ashkenazim came to Israel, okay, and before the Rosh went to Spain, so German Jews, Ashkenazic Jews, French Jews, all of them put tefillin on Chol HaMoed. Why? With the bracha. Some of them said it quietly, but most of them say bracha and everything. Why? זה חול. And especially if you go to work, why not to put on tefillin? ספרדים, and especially based on the Zohar, and גמרא and מנחות, basically says, מה פתאום, חול המועד is what? is ממש חג, it's a moed, and you don't put tefillin because you need to have only 2 otot, 2 signs and not 3. Something very interesting that took place is that I look at you, and I am almost positive that when you went to shul in Chutz La'aretz, when you were children and even adults, most of you probably put on tefillin during Chol HaMoed.
Not so bad.
No,
I didn't. Not me.
you didn't. But when you came to Israel, you started doing it. No, you didn't. Who did put tefillin Chol HaMoed? Who did? Sure. Now, you came here and you stopped. Yeah, I'm saying, b'chutz la'aretz, most shuls that I know of did put tefillin. Or at least there was a mix. And why? Because you went to work. You went to work during Chol HaMoed. People didn't take off. And now, so they put on tefillin. But now, they came to Eretz Israel, and the minhag of the Shulchan Aruch, the halacha of the Shulchan Aruch is what? It says you definitely do not do it. According to the Zohar, it's a transgression. It's mamash chet. That's A. And B, most people in Israel, Chol HaMoed is what? It's a chofesh, and there is no work. Therefore, because we accepted what the Shulchan Aruch says, and because of the nature of Chol HaMoed, most people here do not put on tefillin, and also in Chutz La'aretz now there is a tremendous decrease in the to the extent that in some shuls I know that the people who put on tefillin they sit where? Behind the mechitza. And so it's very interesting. Yes.
You said shtei otot v'lo shalosh otot.
Yeah.
What are the two
I
things?
thought it's like okay. So basically,
I thought when you're talking about Shabbat.
Oh, no. So-
what does Gam Shabbat
so
look
every
like?
Jew has 2 otot, especially men. So they have Brit Milah, and Shabbat is called Ot. Shabbat is called Ot, and Tefillin is called Ot. So you need to have 2 otot. So during Yemei Chol, you have Brit and you have Tefillin. When on Shabbat, you have Shabbat and you have Brit Milah, you don't need Tefillin. Yom Tov, same thing. Now Chol HaMoed, that's the problem. Do you have enough of a Moed, so you have another Ot with your Brit, or you need to have the additional part of Tefillin?
Can I just ask about the Ach? There's 2 Achs here. Ach referring to Yom Tov and Ach referring to Shabbat. I know the pasuk Ach et Shabbat Tishmo. Is that the same Ach for the?
No, yeah, there are many Ach. There is Ach בעשור לחודש השביעי, יש Ach אשר יאכל לכל נפש, הוא לבדו יעשה לכם, which is the pasuk that they are dealing with. So Shammai and Hillel learn 2 different things from the Ach. The Ach comes to exclude what? The Yom Tov, or it comes to exclude Shabbat. Chol HaMoed, Yom Tov and to allow Chol HaMoed, or to exclude Shabbat and to allow Yom Tov itself. So again, the machloket is again being presented between Shammai and Hillel, how they derive it from the pasuk, which is, according to Shammai, you do not bring olot v'shlamim and korban chagiga to the Beit HaMikdash. Why? Because we will not allow you to do smicha, so don't bring it Chol HaMoed. And Hillel says what? Only on Shabbat you can bring it, but Yom Tov, not a problem, bring it on.
Why don't they go to the Sanhedrin and
Where have you been for the last 300 years? Right? We spoke about the fact that this is one of the... Not only Sanhedrin, leave Sanhedrin alone. Hillel was at the time that the Beit HaMikdash Kayam. So what did they do? What did they do before he came from Bavel? You can't ask the Kohen? Interesting. This entire history of this machloket is a bit of a mystery. But this is the first machloket. Now, it might be that maybe the Kohanim themselves, you couldn't trust them. Maybe some of them were tzdukim, some of them were pushim. So each one of them switched minhag every year. So I don't know. But we will see. You will need to wait another, not 300 years, but a few weeks in order that we will get to a theory that I have that I think will explain Shammai and Hillel. Okay, Or Sameach. The Or Sameach says the following.
I'm a little confused. Sorry, Rabbi. Are we still doing this smicha?
Yeah, sure. We are still there.
Because I don't have an answer.
ובשיטת בית שמאי, אם חגיגה דוחה יום טוב, עיין תוספות חגיגה, דיבור המתחיל יום טבוח. ומי הוא בירושלמי, משמע דאף בחגיגה פליגי. ולפלא, I will translate in a minute, ולפלא כי הגרסה הישרה הובאה בבבלי ביצה, דעל עולת ראיה קאי וכן מוכח בירושלמי. הרי חגיגת יום טוב בשיטתך תוכיח, אמנם בתורת כהנים פרשת אמור, יכול אדם חוגג ביום טוב, יעוין שם מפורש גם בחגיגה פליגי בית שמאי. So, the Or Sameach, you don't need to delve into it too much. I did it for you, so I will just give you the bottom line. The bottom line is what are the exact korbanot, sacrifices that Bet Shammai disagree with Bet Hillel on in terms of smicha. Is that olat riyah? Is that chagiga? Is that shlamim? It seems to be that there are a little bit of conflicting sources, but at the end of the day, it's probably on all of them. That's what the Or Sameach says. This is just more of a side note. Now, take a look at Gemara in Beitza. In Beitza in Daf Kaf Amud Aleph Amud Bet. Tani Tana Kamed Rabbi Yitzchak bar Abba. It says in the Torah, Vayakrev et ha'olah, Vayasea kamishpat. So he brought the olah offering, the elevation offering, and he did it kamishpat. What is kamishpat? As you're supposed to. But how do I know? How do I supposed to do it? So the Gemara says, Kemishpat olat nedava. Meaning, you study olah from olat nedava. Okay? You have korbanot olah shel chiyuv, and you learn it from what? From olat nedava, a volunteering elevation offering. I know it's a little strange, it's a different world with the korbanot, but we know basically most of the korbanot, right? Okay. Yeah, olah is elevation offering. Everything goes to God. There is no partnership. There is no nothing that you take as an owner of the korban. Limed al olat chova sheteuna smicha. So you learn from a volunteering elevation offering on an obligatory one that you need to do what? Smicha, to lean the hands over it. Amar le, de amar lecha mani, bet shamahi, de lo gamri shalmei chova mishalmei nedava. Dei bet Hillel, kevan de gamri shalmei chova mishalmei nedava, olat chova nami lo tiba ikra. De gamri meolat nedava. Okay. So, it will be best if I will have a board here and I will just write. Yeah, you know what? Why not? There you go. Yeah. To write out loud. Interesting. Okay.
Maybe push the one on this you have on the side if you move the.
Now I don't have the stand, and no, it will be too low.
Yeah, but if on the left side, that one's.
What?
Which like the stand easels.
No, to
Let him
move the
just do it
bigger
the way he
board
wants
left.
to.
Go,
If
right.
you move to that,
To move it left? How is that going to help me?
Then you'll have more room.
Okay, יאללה, weiter. בסדר. Okay, I don't need to speak. Very good. Olat nedava, an elevation offering, everything goes to God. But volunteering, I'm doing that for my own nice will. Okay? And then there is olat chova, obligatory elevation offering. For example, b'chagim, you must bring olat re'iyah. Okay? No, chet is a little bit different. Chet is because you did the chet. Olah, it's nothing to do with chet. Olah is what? Is that there is an obligatory sacrifice that you need to bring it, and it's all to God.
The elevation, is that the one?
Yeah, the elevation offering. It's called olah, ascend.
Right.
Shalmei nedava, meaning what?
Share it.
Peace offering. This is a barbecue, okay? You come and you get to eat it. You get most of it. You get most of the food. Some of it goes to the Kohanim, some to the Mizbeach, but that's called nedava. I just wanted a Thanksgiving offering, okay? Korban Todah. And Shalmei Chova, okay? Obligatory peace offering. Okay, we're not going to go into details, everything, what is the Korban. Okay. Then we have Vayasea kamishpat, right? Regarding olah. Olat chova. So, olat chova, an obligatory elevation offering, It says vayasea kamishpat. Okay, now why do I scroll? Okay, so now, oh, much better. Okay, so now the Gemara says what? Why do I need this pasuk? In order to learn what? Olat chova from olat nedava. That's what the Gemara says. Then the Talmud says, oh, I'm sorry. Then the Talmud says what? This limud from olat chova from olat nedava, it's only according to whom? To Bet Shammai. Why? Because Bet Hillel already learned what? Shalmei chova from shalmei nedava, and therefore it makes sense that if you learn chova from nedava, and I don't care what korban, you definitely can apply it to this korban as well, which means Bet Hillel do not need this pasuk in order to teach me that what? That you need to learn olat chova me'olat nedava. Okay, good. So let's just try to finish it. So then the Gemara says, the Bet Hillel, kevan degamri shalmei chova mishalmei nedava, olat chova nami lo tiba ikra degamri me'olat nedava. Okay. So the Gemara says, umimai de Bet Hillel shalmei chova mishalmei nedava gamri, dilma me'olat chova gamri, ve'olat chova gufa bayakra. So the Gemara says, rega. Why do you say that Bet Hillel do not need this pasuk? Perhaps Bet Hillel do not learn shalmei chova from shalmei nedava, but rather shalmei chova me olat chova, and olat chova you need to learn from where? From olat nedava, because of the pasuk. יפה מאוד, מ"ויעשה כמשפט. You are with me? I know you are here. No one escaped. But you are with me with the logic, okay? זה 101 גמרא, מה לעשות, אוקיי? בסדר.
Excuse me, but the logic says you should learn nedava from chova. It seems more logical to learn nedava mechova, lo chova,
Right.
nedava.
Right.
You have a Gemara cop. You need to develop it a bit. But no, very good. But you can see the other side as well. If in Nedava you have a obligatory, definitely must have it. נכון? Okay. So, the Gemara says, מה ישנה משלמי נדבה דלא גמרי, שכן מצויים, מעולת חובה נמי לא גמרי, שכן כליל, אלא עטיה מביניה. So the Gemara says, no. We have a problem, because until now I told you ignore what type of korban we are talking about, right? But this is not 100% true. When the Gemara wants to reject it a bit, the Gemara says, rega. It's true that nedava, chova is similar. However, you have a different, intrinsic difference between the type of the korban that you might create a distinction. Shlamim is a korban that we all eat together, and maybe the laws regarding shlamim might be what? Different than a korban that goes all straight to Hashem. So the fact that something can be nedava and chova, volunteering versus obligatory, that's true. You can create similarities. However, the type of the korban can demand a distinction. Why? Because you can't learn from something that it's more mundane, let's call it like that. You don't need to, it's not everything goes to God, but rather people eat it together, rather than something that, at least in our eyes, it's holier, even though it's exactly the opposite. What do I mean exactly the opposite? Because we are getting close to Pesach, so I'll tell you that right now. I'm already in Pesach mode, so yeah, that's true. Everyone comes from different perspectives, right? So the thing is that who was that? The Netziv, I think. One of the challenges of Yahadut is not the Olah, is the Shlamim. How do you eat a family barbecue with the feeling and the knowing and the understanding and the sense of the divine presence in your life. It's much easier to send an elevation offering. It goes everything to God, and you stand there, you don't get involved. But when you see the entire family around the table and you have a barbecue and you eat and you drink and to still find God, that's much more problematic. Who was the first one to do a Zevach Mishpacha? Who says Vayizbach Zvachim? Bereshit. I'm not going anywhere.
Brisbane, Sarah.
Not Zvachim. Korbanot, but not Zvachim. Vayizbach Zvachim leElokei. No.
Yaakov.
Aviv. Yitzchak. Baruch Hashem. Okay. You should try. If it's not Avraham, you should go to Yitzchak. If I would say no, there's only one more. It's not such complicated. It's not that complicated. So we have Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Yaakov was the first one to Lizboach Zvachim. How is Korban Pesach called? Zevach Mishpacha. And later on, who did a Zevach Mishpacha? David. Nachon meod. When Vayipaked Mekom David, right? When there was a Mesibat Rosh Chodesh, and Shaul asked, where is David? So the first day he saw he's not there, so he didn't say anything. The second day he asked Yonatan, where is he? And he says, Zevach Mishpacha lo ba'ir. And Shaul got tzehitz. Okay. That was Mesibat Rosh Chodesh. So you see that Zevach Mishpacha,
That was
meaning
through the arrow, right?
the what?
Through the arrow.
Yeah. So the thing is what? Is the idea of Zevach Mishpacha. This is how Korban Pesach is called. And Korban Pesach is definitely the time that we renew our commitment and our covenant with Hashem. So it's very interesting to see that on one hand, Olah is definitely a very high level in terms of Kedusha, but at the same time, but that's up there. Yeah. But if you want to talk about the Kedusha here, Zevach Mishpacha is probably the most Kadosh Korban. Okay, going back to our... the what? Vayizbach Zvakim leElokei Aviv Yitzchak. If I'm not mistaken, I think after the meeting with Esav, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think after the meeting with Esav, or it's after Maaseh Shechem, but it's in Vayeshev, or Vayishlach or Vayeshev, I don't remember exactly. Okay, now. So the Gemara says, and it's underlined, Vesavri bet Shammai shalmei chova lo ba'u smicha. So you tell me that what? That you learn Shalmei Chova from Shalmei Nedava. In Shalmei Nedava, you don't need to do smicha, but in Shalmei Chova, so if you learn one from each other, so it seems that what? That Shalmei Chova do not need smicha. So the Gemara says, how can you say that? Ve'atani amar Rabbi Yossi, לא נחלקו בית שמאי ובית הלל, על הסמיכה עצמה שצריך. על מה נחלקו? על תכף לסמיכה שחיטה, שבית שמאי אומרים אינו צריך, ובית הלל אומרים צריך. So, which means, we'll talk about it. There are 3 techefs. What is techef? Like immediately. You do something, and immediately after that, you need to do something else. Anyone here knows what are the other 2? Because this is the first one. Techef lesmicha shchita. No?
Mashiach should be coming tachef for me.
That's Gemara in Megillah. Gemara in Brachot. No? לא. דף מ', למ"ט, מ', משהו כזה.
תכף ברכה פעולה, כאילו עובר לעשייה?
כן, אבל לא ככה. תכף לגאולה תפילה, right? סומך גואל ישראל לתפילה, and תכף לשמיכה שחיטה, and... No, just Hebrew. I'm joking, sure. That immediately after you do the leaning of the hands, you need to slaughter the animal. That's one. תכף, immediately. The second one is immediately after you say Goel Israel, before Shmona Esrei, before the silent prayer, that Hashem is the Redeemer of Israel, you need to immediately daven, to be somech, to attach Geula, redemption, to tefillah, to prayer. And the third one is? תכף לנטילה ברכה. that immediately after you wash your hands, which is, let's say, according to some, is מים אחרונים, you immediately need to say what? ברכת המזון. And Abaye adds one more. This is from the Braita. Abaye adds one more. I guess if you didn't know the first three, you're not going to know the fourth one. Or just you are all very humble, so you don't want to show off, okay, בסדר? But the fourth one is Abaye אמר, תכף לתלמידי חכמים ברכה. Meaning immediately when you meet a Talmid Chacham, immediately you're going to have blessings. And why? How do we know that? From Sefer Bereshit, twice. Yaakov and? Before. There is more Savior. ניחשתי ויברכני השם בגללך. יפה. לבן to יעקב. וניחשתי ויברכני השם בגללך. You came along. Now, where is the second time? When there is a Talmid Chacham and there is blessing in the house. ויברך השם את בית המצרי בגלל יוסף. Yosef comes along and there is bracha in Beit Yosef, okay? So תכף לתלמיד חכם bracha. So these are the four techefs. 3 Tanaim, 3 from a Braita and 1 Amora. So, how did we get there? תכף לשמיכה שחיטה. Meaning, so the thing is that the Gemara says, Bet Shammai and Hillel both agree that Shalmei Chova needs what? Smicha. Definitely we need smicha. And we spoke about it, I think, in the first shiur. The smicha represents what? Some kind of attachment between the person who brings the korban to the korban. Participation, ownership. We also do it when we want to transform authority. Right? Moshe did it to what? To Yehoshua. Okay? Or to transfer a bracha. Okay? That's somehow how the smichat for a rabbi came along. Okay? So the idea is of what? Of giving some kind of authority. So the Gemara says Shammai and Hillel agree that they need smicha. The only thing is they disagree. Do we need to apply techef lesmicha shchita, which means do we need to do immediately the slaughtering immediately after what? We put our hands. Or I can put my hands on Monday, and then Erev Yom Tov is Monday night and Tuesday, and then I can do the shchita or I can do it on Tuesday because I don't need to do smicha right now, which means I don't need to do it immediately. Okay? So that's one way to say what? That Bet Shammai really holds that you need to do smicha b'shalmei chova, but you don't need to do it on Yom Tov. You can do it a day before. Now, if someone is going to ask me how long it can be between smicha and shchita, I don't know. I really don't know. I would assume as close as you can. Okay. But even if not, I really don't know. So the Gemara says, Hu de'amar ki hai Tanya. So this is one opinion. Second opinion, אמר רבי יוסי ורבי יהודה, לא נחלקו בית שמאי ובית הלל על תכף לשמיכה שחיטה שצריך, על מה נחלקו? על השמיכה עצמה, שבית שמאי אומרים אינו צריך ובית הלל אומרים צריך. The second opinion says exactly the opposite, which means they all agree that if you do need smicha, it needs to be done when? Immediately before shchita, which by the way, makes sense. Why it makes sense? If we say that the entire idea of smicha is what? Is to transfer authority, to create an attachment. If I did smicha on Sunday and I bring it on Wednesday, I already what? I already forgot. I'm detached from the animal. So basically, it makes sense, the other opinion. The machloket is, do you need smicha on shalmei chova? Okay. Now.
Is the shchita done by, who's it done by? They have special people who do
Mostly
it?
כהנים, yeah, mostly כהנים, למרות ששחיטה כשרה בזר, כן. Okay. There are four עבודות of a kohen that must be by a kohen, but shchita, they mostly was done by kohanim.
Balabas came to the temple, but he couldn't go up to where they did the shchita.
He could come close. No, he could come close. Some of it was done by Ezrat Israel, or at least from Ezrat Israel he can see it. Yeah, because most of the korbanot were outside. Not outside of Yerushalayim or outside of the Beit HaMikdash, but not in Kodesh HaKodeshim. So,
So you appointed like a representative.
Sure.
You brought the carbon, and then the Kohen did it for you.
and what did you do during the year? Same thing. It's called what? אנשי מעמד. יפה מאוד. You have אנשי משמר and אנשי מעמד. You will see it every time. You will see it in Gemara in Ta'anit and many other places. אנשי משמר is what? You take the Kohanim, you divide them to 24 families. Each one of them get 2 weeks to work in the Beit HaMikdash. What did they do the other 48 weeks?
Sorry, can you talk a little slower?
Shuva, obviously. Yes. אנשי משמר are Kohanim, families, that what the rabbis did, it really started probably from David HaMelech. They took all the Kohanim and they divided them to 24 mishmarot, 24 families. Each family had 2 weeks work in the Beit HaMikdash. And the rest of the weeks, what did they do? I thought you would say they went to Florida or something. No, they taught. They went from village to teach. That was their purpose. That was their mission. כי שפתי כהן ישמרו דעת ותורה יבקשו מפיו. The lips of a Kohen will observe knowledge and you will seek Torah from his mouth. So that's the Kohanim. Now, the problem is that you cannot bring a Korban if you are not there. If you are the Balabait, you need to be there. But we all understand that if I live in the Galil, okay, I'm not going to come to Yerushalayim every time I need to bring a Korban Chatat. So, the rabbis came up with an idea. We'll do Anshei Ma'amad. We will take again the tribes. We will divide them to somehow 24 families. And each one of them will have a mishmeret, a shift, for a week or two during the year. And they will represent the entire Am Yisrael. So it will look like what? Like there is someone who is Omed al Korbano. What does it mean, Omed al Korbano? He stands by his sacrifice. Because you want to create a connection between you and the Korban. It's not just like you are writing a check and that's it. Yes?
Surely, if it was a ma'amad in the place where you are, the time allotted for those Anshe Ma'amad to come to Yerushalayim might be quite a distance in time between when he wants to bring his chatat and he won't have his...
The shifts of the Anshe, that was just for honor, but they represented all the tribes together. Yeah. Because if not, ma'oilu chachamim b'takanotan. Okay, so now a story, okay? Until now, I exhausted your brain with the Shalmei Nedava, Shalmei Chova, Olat Nedava. Next week, we'll have a test, so write it down. And it will be in Hebrew. Okay. You see, after I came back from Germany, I got a sense of humor, right? Okay. Yeah, Tanur Banan. Yeah. Tanur Banan. You have אנשי מעמד. תנור הבנן. מעשה בהלל הזקן, שהביא עולתו לעזרה, לסמוך עליה ביום טוב. Hillel brought his own elevation offering on Yom Tov, and to the Azara, to the sanctuary, not to the Kodesh HaKodashim or anything else. So okay, he brought her. חברו עליו תלמידי שמאי הזקן. So the students of Shammai came along and started like a ganged up on him. Exactly. אמרו לו, by the way, I looked at this story, whenever I read that story, I have such a squeeze in my heart. Look at the way that the Gemara portrays it. Hillel HaZaken. He's an elderly person. He's a scholar. It's called Hillel HaZaken because there are other Hillels too, so you don't get confused. But he came from Bavel to Eretz Israel in around 0. He became the head of the Sanhedrin by Bnei Betera, that appointed him because he basically solved the mystery about Pesach Shechal B'Shabbat, which was really not a mystery, but whatever. And he was appointed, and then, so he's a sage, and he might be even an older person. And he might even be the Nasi at that time. But take a look. חברו עליו תלמידי שמאי הזקן. They think they're his friends. Okay? He is an elderly person, a scholar, a sage, that whatever he forgot, they will never learn. Okay? And they are his friends. And they say to him, אמרו לו, and they say to him, not our dear Hillel, הרב, מה טיבה של בהמה זו? You brought an animal, what's the type of that animal? אמר להם נקבה היא. It's a female, animal, and I brought it for what? For shlamim, because olah you need zachar, you need a male animal. קשקש להם בזנבה והלכו להם. So in order for them not to start checking if that's a male or a female, because definitely you can check it very quickly, what did he do? He started playing with her tail, so they will not look too much. If that would stop them from looking, I don't know what kind of students are they, but definitely not the smartest, what do you call it, the smartest pants in the, whatever, yeah, exactly. And I'm sorry, I feel terrible to say that, but באמת, you מקשקש להם בזנבה and they go. טוב, ואותו היום, גברה ידם של בית שמאי על בית הלל, וביקשו לקבוע הלכה כמותן. So, the student of Shammai came along, and they probably says in the בית המקדש, even Hillel, he brought a korban on Yom Tov, but he was afraid to bring olah. He brought what? Shlamim. And on shlamim, you don't do smicha. So he agrees with us. And therefore, the halacha should be that there is no smicha on Yom Tov. Baruch Hashem.
That's why they didn't want to check, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to complain this if it was a male.
And if they would, I don't want to know the end of the story. You know what? You reminded me another story which is also horrible. It's in Yoma, I think, but it's in Yoma, which is a terrible story. There were two Kohanim. I mean, look what's going on sometimes in the Beit HaMikdash itself. Two Kohanim are running on the staircase in order to bring a korban. Who is going to be the first one to get there so he can bring the korban? The other guy, push will be nice. The other guy saw that the other guy is running faster, took a knife, stabbed him. Okay. So you would think that everyone would be what? Terrified. So the father of the guy who was stabbed, his son who was stabbed, says what? Don't worry, he's dying, he's still alive. So the sakin, adayin lo tmea. It's not. It's still pure. It's not impure. Says Rabbi Meir. I think it was Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir or Rabbi Yeshua, one of them, says, אוי להם לישראל, שטהרת כלים חשובה יותר להם ממה מחיים. That's a story in the Gemara to describe what was going on at the time. English, please. It's like Yiddish. You can't translate it. It's just like a.
You can't translate.
The thing is basically it says that the rabbi says, look what's going on with Am Yisrael. They lost their mind. That they care more about the purity of the knife rather than that the murder took place here. So the idea.
Wasn't there also a murder with the Truma?
Why the Gemara wanted to tell us the story? I will tell you. To show you that sometimes even in places of holiness, you will find what? Exactly the opposite of. We know that. Yes, we know that.
I heard of Trumas Hadeshan that they were chasing each other to see who would get the.
I don't remember. I don't recall. Does not mean does not exist. I don't recall that one from the Gemara. So here what we have. So they decided, you know what? Okay, now we have a halacha. The halacha is you can't do smicha. So היה שם זקן אחד מתלמידי שמאי הזקן. So there was an older student. You see the older? You see? Hillel HaZaken, the elder, Shammai HaZaken, and then another Talmid who is also what? A Zaken. So what does he do? The Baba ben Buta Shmo. His name was Baba ben Buta. Which, by the way, where else do we know Baba ben Buta from? No, you know the story. That's Gemara in Baba Batra, Mamash B'atchala, B'tav Dalet, a very famous story with someone who built the Beit HaMikdash and who got an advice from Baba ben Buta. I'm giving you all the answers now. Hordus. Remember the story with Hordus? Herod, okay? In Dav Dalet, that he killed all the rabbis and he left Baba ben Buta. He caused him to be blind. And then he tried to trick him to say something negative on the king, and he said no. And he says, I did not know that the rabbis are so smart. So he gave him advice to build the Beit HaMikdash. That was Baba ben Buta. שהיה יודע שהלכה כבית הלל. So he knew, even though he was a student of Shammai, you see integrity, and you see the difference between the Talmidim, between the students. שלח והביא כל צאן קדר שבירושלים, והעמידן בעזרה. So what did he do? I guess he was very wealthy, and he brought all the flock in Yerushalayim, and he, can you imagine that? The sanctuary is filled with what? With sheep, goats, I don't know, whatever it is. ואמר, כל מי שרוצה לסמוך יבוא ויסמוך. Everyone who would like to come and lean your hands on it, come. כל דכפין. ואותו היום גברה ידן של בית הלל וקבעו הלכה כמותן. ולא היה שם אדם שיערער בדבר כלום. So that day, probably it was a Yom Tov, because if not, what's the point? So it was on a Yom Tov, and now everyone understood that the halacha accords with Bet Hillel, which means you do smicha. שוב, מעשה בתלמיד אחד מתלמידי בית הלל שהביאו אותו לעזרה לסמוך עליה. Again, a story about one of the Talmidim, one of the students of Bet Hillel, that he brought an elevation offering to the sanctuary to put his hands on it to do smicha on Yom Tov. מצאו תלמיד אחד מתלמידי בית שמאי, אמר לו, מה זו סמיכה? So one of the students of בית שמאי says to him, what are you doing? אמר לו, מה זו שתיקה? Maybe you should be quiet. שתקו בנזיפה והלך לו. So this student, I guess, understood that he doesn't want to mess with this other student, and he left. But why did I bring that story again? Because even after what Baba Ben Buta did, still the machloket remained. And you ask yourself a simple question. Why? Come on, if that's only because of Shvut, you're going to be so disrespectful for each other, and to be so negative to each other, and to fight. זה לא שווה את זה. It doesn't worth it. In the name of God, you can do many things, right?
What was the problem with Midot? You know, Shammai and Hillel themselves.
Yeah, but even though Shammai and Hillel were friendly and they allowed their children to get married with each other, but it still was a heated debate between them. Yes?
Why? What happened to Midot? These are big people.
You're asking a very good question. And my answer is that you can be a great sage and you can have no midot whatsoever.
How?
How?
Because you're a human being,
You
that's why.
compartmentalize.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense.
Like many other things. Yeah.
They were on the syndrome.
Okay, now turn to page 6 because I gave you basically almost everything by Rashi. So, page 6 at the end. We are getting closer.
Till
Maybe not.
Pesach.
Yeah.
Pesach will know what to do.
You can do smicha on Pesach, Bezrat Hashem. Yeah. Okay. Page 6. Tosefta Masechet Mura. Now, by the way, just do you see in parentheses Zuckermandel?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a little bit of history. Zuckermandel, he was the one to publish the Tosefta based on the manuscript that he found in no
I was going to say that.
Erfurt. That's a city in Germany that we went, and I was very disappointed not to see the manuscript of the Tosefta, but then I realized it's here. Okay, but they found a treasure there, mamash treasure. Some of it I think is some of it is Jewish, some of it is not Jewish. There was a community there in the 11th and 12th and 13th century. Erfurt was. That's where Friedberg is. It's 20 meters down, 85 stairs, if I'm not mistaken, which is incredible, mamash incredible. But in Erfurt, they found this manuscript, and Zuckermandel based his Tosefta, his publishing of the Tosefta, based on that manuscript. Later on, Lieberman comes along and he found a different manuscript from Vienna, from the 14th century. This is an Ashkenazi manuscript. He found a Sephardi manuscript, and he claimed that it's much more accurate. He gave different reasons, and who was that? I think Professor Brody. I hope you know some of him. Know him. He davens here during the week. So he claimed that we need to create some kind of more of an eclectic nusach of the Tosefta. But whatever it is, that's why I just wanted to explain what does it mean Zuckermandel. Okay, so Zuckermandel is a name of a person. Okay, a choker, a researcher who he already passed away, but he basically put out the Tosefta based on the Nusach that he found in Erfurt. Okay,
How do you spell that? Eric?
Erfurt, Ein Reish.
E with an E. Erfurt. I think it's
You're asking in English? No idea.
or EH or
רגע, מישל? E-R-F-U-R-T? E-R. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the תוספתא. קורבנות ציבור דוחה את השבת ואת הטומאה. Okay, קורבנות that the ציבור, that the congregation, that people, that the nation needs to bring, it overrides Shabbat and it overrides what? Tum'ah. For example, this is one of the most famous halachot. Pesach. If the entire tzibur is tameh, is impure because of being in touch with the dead body, okay, you bring korban even though everyone is impure. Okay, that's korban tzibur because ein tzibur met, and the tzibur has a different status. Okay, korbanot yachid, sacrifices that are being done or being brought by the individual, אינם דוחים לו את השבת ולא את הטומאה, דברי רבי יהודה. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, an individual cannot bring korban, his own korban on Shabbat, and if he's impure, he's impure. He needs to wait till he purifies himself. אמר לו רבי יעקב, מצינו בחביתי כהן משיח ופר יום כיפורים והפסח, שהם קורבנות יחיד ודוחים את השבת ואת הטומאה. מצינו בפר הבא על כל המצוות וסירי עבודה זרה וחגיגה שקורבנות ציבור ואינם דוחים לא את השבת ולא את הטומאה. So Rabbi Yaakov is challenging Rav Yehuda, and he says that's not true. We found Chavitei Kohen Mashiach. What is Chavitei Kohen Mashiach? Chavita is not an omelet here. I mean, it is if you go to a restaurant and they ask you for Chavita. So, Nachon, what does he do? He brings korban machatzito baboker v'machatzito ba'arev, half in the morning, half in the night. It's like a chavitat ptitin kazoti, like a little bit of salt and not salt, solet. איך אומרים בעברית? I don't know, whatever, solet. You understand what is solet, okay? And so what? That he see that it's not true. Sometimes a korban of an individual can override Tumah and override Shabbat, and korbanot tzibur does not. So what you said, Rabbi Yehuda, is not correct. Klal amar Rabbi Yaakov. So Rabbi Yaakov says no, there is a different klal. And what's the klal? כל שיש לו זמן קבוע מן התורה ואין יכול לעשות מערב שבת דוחה את השבת. וכל שאין לו זמן קבוע מן התורה ויכול לעשות מערב שבת אין דוחה את השבת. So Rabbi Yaakov says what? Everything that has a set time from the Torah and it cannot be done before Shabbat, so you do it on Shabbat. And everything that does not have a set time from the Torah and it can be done before Shabbat, you cannot do it what? On Shabbat. So it's not about yachid and tzibur, an individual and a community, but rather, does he have a set time? A. B. Can you do it before? If there is a set time and you can't do it before, you do it. And if there is no set time and you can do it before, you don't do it on Shabbat. So why did I bring this to Sefta? Because according to Rabbi Yaakov, the question goes back to what? To smicha. If you say that what? There is no, I will put it like that. There is a set time to bring Olah. An obligatory Olah, you need to bring when? On Yom Tov. Olat Reya. You must bring it. The question is smicha, leaning the hands, must be done when you bring the korban, or it can be done before. If you can do it before and there is no set time for it, so do it before and then bring it. If there is a set time, it's different. Now, the Tosefta, according to this Tosefta, and with that thought I think I'll leave you, is when you look at smicha, you need to ask yourself, like you ask yourself almost in every other halacha, is that an integral part of the mitzvah or is that an external part of the mitzvah? What is the difference? If you tell me that this is an integral part of the mitzvah, if you didn't do it, you didn't do it. Meaning it does not count. Or alternatively, if it's external, if you didn't do it, okay, you didn't do it in the highest level, but you still did it. I'll give you another example. One of the most famous ones. Okay, so we have the Gemara in Baba Kama, in Daf Tet Amud Bet. The Gemara there says what? Hidur b'mitzvah ad shlish b'mitzvah. Remember that one? that when you beautify a mitzvah, you need to add a third. So leave alone, there is always a question if the third is from within or external, which means if you have, for example, something that it's called 6 shekels, do you add 3 shekels or do you add 2 shekels? If the third is from within or from the outside. You're with me with the math? This is a simple math. Okay?
Price items that way when you're in business.
Okay.
מלמטה ומלמעלה.
יפה מאוד.
Do the repeat.
Did you do it before, like in your past?
What?
Did you do it before? Like,
I worked for a company.
okay, very good. Very simple. We'll just put it like that so you'll understand. If I have something for 6 shekels, okay, do you do times 3? So 1, 2, so you add 2. Wow, I always wanted to be a math teacher. Okay, so you add 2, or you take the 6 and you say, okay, this is 1, 3, and then there is another 3. And okay, if you need to add a third, what do you eat? What do you eat? What do you eat? What do you add? Another 3. So that will be the difference from within or outside. Now, so leave alone, that was just a side note. This is not my point. My point is that when we talk about hidur mitzvah, where do we find hidur mitzvah? Sefer Torah, etrog, lulav, sukkah na'ah, tefillin na'im, tzitzit na'ah, Sefer Torah na'eh, okay? Meaning beautify Torah, tzitzit, tefillin. So the question is, if you don't do it, let's say I bought a kosher etrog, size-wise, but looks like my tzuras, okay? And I fulfill the mitzvah. So again, if you tell me that hidur mitzvah is an integral part, the answer is I didn't. If you tell me this is external part, I did, but not לא כל כך טוב, not the best way. Okay, now. No, if I bought a lemon, if it's not kosher, so it's not kosher. A lemon of an etrog. Okay, right. Okay, so therefore.
The etrog a good example because it says creates hadar, so it might be different with it.
No, so we learn from Pri Etz Hadar that you need to have hadar on all the 4 minim. We learn it in פרק 30 בסוכה. So this is really the main question here. And how do we view smicha? Okay, how do we view it? Is that part of the korban or not? Now, also, in addition to it, and I'm giving you now a little bit of a hint. If I take away the smicha, what will be your approach towards the korbanot and towards the mikdash and everything? It's like an Amazon. You know, I'm sure that when the Bet HaMikdash will be built, Bezrat Hashem, Walt will deliver animals. Okay? They will have a little bit of a bigger box on there, I hope. And then they will just bring, okay, I live in Haifa. I'll send my korban. I don't need to do smicha. I don't need to do anything. You send me a picture, a selfie with the korban, and I'll be happy. But that's not what I want. I want you to do what? To come. And if I just want you to come, just to deliver it and not to be part of it, I'm not sure that you will feel wanted. So I'm giving you a hint to where Hillel and his house are aiming. If I want people's involvement, I need to have smicha. And with last thing, if you remember the story, that Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon, what did they do? They took the korban through the women's section. You remember? And they told them to lean their hands, but not too hard. But you remember? Just like to pass it by, so that will do nachat ruach lanashim, to do something pleasant for them, so they will feel somewhat involved, to be part of it. So the thing is that that's what we will deal bli neder next week, Bezrat Hashem, and then we'll try probably next week, but maybe the following week to try to give the entire idea. Okay.
What was it on